Emily spent the night with nausea and vomiting after having lunch at her mother-in-law's house, whom she had just met. It was the first of many times she felt sick after eating the food served by her mother-in-law. However, on the day she decides to switch plates with her husband, an unexpected secret comes to light. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Emily always dreamed of living a grand adventure. Growing up as an only child in a small and quiet family made her yearn for something more exciting. The silent and formal meals at her home were a constant reminder that she wished for more noise, more laughter, more life around her. Since childhood, Emily would spend hours imagining what it would be like to be part of a large and noisy family. She concocted stories in her mind about mischievous siblings running through the house, fights over who would use the bathroom first in the morning, and Sunday lunches with a table full of dishes and lively conversations. Her childhood, although comfortable, was marked by a certain loneliness. Emily's parents, though loving, were reserved people of few words. Evenings at home were filled with the low sound of the television and the clinking of silverware during dinner. Emily often found herself wishing for something unexpected to happen. Perhaps a neighbour would knock on the door asking for a cup of sugar, or maybe a street vendor would show up offering something unusual. But her expectations rarely materialised. At school, Emily was a diligent and quiet student. She had a few friends, but no really close friendships. Her classmates saw her as the goody two-shoes girl, polite, intelligent, but somewhat distant. What they didn't know was that inside, Emily longed for deeper connections, for experiences that would take her out of her comfort zone. As she grew older, this desire for change and excitement only increased. Emily dedicated herself to her studies with great effort, always with the aim of one day leaving her small town and experiencing the world. She devoured travel books and spent hours browsing the internet, dreaming of exotic places and different cultures. When she finally reached university, Emily felt it was her chance to reinvent herself. She tried hard to be more outgoing, to make new friends and to try new things. It was a time of personal discovery and growth, but even so, she felt that something was missing. After graduating, Emily landed a job at a multinational company in her hometown. Though grateful for the opportunity, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. Would her dreams of adventure remain unfulfilled? It was then that the opportunity that would change her life arose. The company was looking for volunteers for a project on another continent. Without thinking twice, Emily applied. When she received the news that she had been selected, her heart almost exploded with joy. Finally, she would have the chance to live the adventure she had always dreamed of. With a mix of excitement and nervousness, Emily said goodbye to her parents and embarked on her journey. The trip was long and tiring, but every minute was filled with anticipation. When she finally arrived at her destination, a bustling city in a tropical country, Emily was immediately enveloped by an explosion of colours, sounds and aromas. It was all so different from what she was used to, and she loved every second of it. In the first few days, Emily felt a bit lost. The new work environment was challenging, and the cultural differences sometimes caught her by surprise. But she was determined to make the most of every moment and embrace all the new experiences life had to offer. It was in this context of new experiences and challenges that Emily met Samuel. He was a colleague also from another country, already familiar with the place, and was assigned to help foreign employees adapt. Tall, with captivating green eyes and a contagious smile, Samuel was everything Emily didn't know she was looking for. From the very first moment, Emily felt attracted to Samuel. It wasn't just his physical appearance that captivated her, but his vibrant and warm personality. Samuel was extroverted, funny, and full of stories about his large, noisy family. The way he talked about his siblings, nephews, and Sunday lunches at his mother's house made Emily's eyes shine with fascination. Samuel, in turn, was equally enchanted by Emily. He admired her courage to leave everything behind and embark on this adventure. Her sweetness, intelligence, and the sparkle in her eyes when she spoke about her dreams completely won him over. He loved hearing about her tranquil childhood and imagining what it would be like to introduce her to the loving chaos of his own family. The two began to spend more and more time together outside of work. Samuel became Emily's personal guide, taking her to explore the most interesting corners of the city. He introduced her to the local cuisine, took her to colourful festivals and taught her a few words in the local language. Emily felt herself blooming each day. The life she had always dreamed of seemed to be materialising before her eyes. The work was challenging and rewarding. She was getting to know a fascinating culture, and now she had Samuel by her side, filling her days with laughter and affection. The romance between them blossomed quickly. In just a few months, they were inseparable, spending every free moment together. Emily loved how Samuel made her feel, alive, loved, part of something greater. With him, she experienced for the first time what it was like to be part of a big, close-knit family, even if from a distance. Samuel constantly talked about his family. He told hilarious stories about the mischief he and his siblings got into as children, described the delicious dishes his mother prepared, and shared photos of their crowded and joyful family gatherings. Emily drank in every word, every image, feeling increasingly in love not only with Samuel, but with the idea of becoming part of that world. It was on one of those evenings, while they were walking hand in hand under the stars in a city park, that Samuel surprised Emily. He led her to a bench under a leafy tree, the same place where they had their first kiss months before. With his heart racing, Samuel knelt down before Emily. His green eyes shone with emotion as he took a small box out of his pocket. "Emily," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "These past few months by your side have been the happiest of my life. You have brought light, love, and adventure into my days. I can't imagine my future without you. Will you marry me?" Emily felt tears streaming down her face as a huge smile spread. Without hesitation, she replied, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Samuel placed the ring on her finger, a delicate gold band with a small blue stone, Emily's favourite colour. They embraced, laughing and crying with happiness. That night, while celebrating their engagement, Samuel and Emily started making plans for the future. They decided to get married right there, just the two of them, in an intimate and romantic ceremony. Afterwards, they would return to Samuel's country to celebrate with his family. In the following weeks, Emily found herself immersed in preparations for the wedding and the move. She managed to get transferred at her job and was eager to start this new phase of her life alongside her love. Samuel made a video call to share the news with his family. The computer screen could barely contain the explosion of joy and surprise. His mother, Celine, a lady with a gentle appearance and a warm smile, promised that they would have a big party when they returned home. Emily was enchanted by Samuel's family's reaction. In the following video calls, Celine always showed herself to be kind and welcoming, making Emily feel like part of the family even from a distance. Samuel couldn't stop talking about how his mother was an excellent cook, describing delicious dishes that he couldn't wait for Emily to try. The wedding between the two was simple, but emotional. Emily and Samuel exchanged vows at sunset on a deserted beach. The only sound was the gentle breaking of waves on the sand and the beating of their passionate hearts. After the ceremony, they dined at a small seaside restaurant, toasting to their love and the future that awaited them. Finally, the time came to leave. Emily felt a mix of emotions, sadness for leaving the place where she had lived so many adventures, but also immense excitement for what was to come. During the journey, Samuel couldn't stop talking about his family, especially his 6 older brothers. "You won't believe the wonderful chaos that is our home," he said, laughing. "I remember when we were kids, we would run around the house like crazy. Mum always said we were her own private soccer team." Emily smiled, imagining the scene. It was so different from her own childhood, with quiet afternoons reading books or playing alone in the backyard. She could hardly wait to experience this new kind of family life. When they finally arrived, they were greeted with an explosion of joy. Samuel's parents' house was decorated with colourful banners, balloons and flowers. Children were running everywhere, shouting and laughing. Adults were conversing animatedly, their voices blending into a joyful symphony. The smell of delicious food filled the air. Emily momentarily felt overwhelmed. It was more noise and movement than she had ever experienced in her entire life. Samuel, noticing her discomfort, held her hand and smiled reassuringly. "Welcome to the family, dear," he said, kissing her forehead. One by one, Samuel's siblings came to greet them. There was Peter, the eldest, a tall and strong man with a contagious laugh. Next was Jonathan, wearing glasses and with an intellectual air, but with a gentle smile. Noah was the family's jokester, always ready with a joke. Andrew had a more serious demeanour, but his eyes sparkled with joy. Luke was the artist, always with a sketchbook in hand. And finally, Jeremy, just 2 years older than Samuel, with whom he seemed to have a special bond. Emily watched, fascinated by the interactions between the siblings. They played, teased each other, but the love between them was palpable. She wondered what it would have been like to grow up amidst so much affection and companionship. Amidst all this commotion, Emily finally met Celine in person. The family matriarch was a short and chubby woman with kind eyes and a welcoming smile. She hugged Emily tightly, as if she had known her for years. "Welcome to the family, my dear," said Celine, her voice overflowing with affection. "I'm so happy you are here. Tomorrow I will prepare a special lunch just for the two of us, so we can get to know each other better. What would you like to eat?" Emily, a little disconcerted by so much attention, politely replied that anything Celine prepared would be great. Her mother-in-law smiled, satisfied, and was soon pulled away by one of her grandchildren who wanted to show her something. During the party, Emily noticed how Celine seemed especially attached to Samuel. She constantly hugged him, stroked his hair, and looked at him with eyes full of adoration. Emily remembered that Samuel was the youngest and imagined that this must have made him special in his mother's eyes. In the days that followed, Emily gradually adapted to her new life. The house was always full, with siblings, in-laws and nephews coming and going all the time. Meals were always an event, with everyone gathering around the large dining room table, talking loudly and laughing. Emily tried hard to fit in, but sometimes she felt overwhelmed. There were moments when she longed for the quietude of her old life, only to feel guilty right afterward. After all, wasn't this what she had always wanted? A big, noisy family. Samuel, always attentive, noticed when Emily needed some time alone. In those moments, he would take her for a walk, just the two of them, allowing her to recharge her energy. The day after her arrival, Emily went to have lunch at Celine's house, as had been arranged. Her mother-in-law greeted her with a big smile and led her to the kitchen, where a delicious aroma filled the air. "I made a special stew for you, dear," said Celine, serving a generous plate to Emily. "It's a family recipe." Emily was excited to try Celine's famous cooking, which Samuel had talked about so much. But after taking the first bite, she noticed a strange taste. It wasn't bad exactly, just different. Not wanting to be impolite, Emily forced a smile and ate the entire plate, complimenting the food. As soon as she got home, Emily started feeling a strange discomfort in her stomach, as if a small storm were forming inside. At first, she tried to ignore it, thinking she might have eaten a bit too quickly. But when the internal storm turned into a hurricane, with thunder rumbling and lightning zigzagging through her digestive system, she knew something was definitely wrong. Soon, Emily found herself making a desperate run to the bathroom, barely having time to close the door behind her. Samuel, upon noticing Emily's miserable state, appeared at the bathroom door with a concerned expression and a small bottle of water in his hand. "Honey, are you okay?" "More or less," Emily replied, trying to keep her sense of humour while battling the increasingly intense symptoms. "It must be just your stomach getting used to the new spices," he said, heading out to buy some medicine. Emily tried to believe that, but the next few times she ate at her mother-in-law's house, the same thing happened. She always felt sick afterward, with diarrhea and vomiting. The strangest part was that the food always tasted a little different, but Samuel didn't seem to notice, eating with enjoyment. Emily began to grow suspicious, and her mind quickly filled with absurd theories, some so funny that she could hardly believe she was taking them seriously. One of the first ideas that came to her mind was that Celine, her seemingly lovely mother-in-law, actually didn't like her and was plotting something sinister, like a slow poisoning. Maybe she's trying to eliminate me little by little, Emily thought, imagining Celine spying on her through the kitchen door crack with a bubbling cauldron in the background, laughing like a cartoon villain. Another possibility that made her laugh to herself was the idea that all of this was some kind of secret family initiation ritual. Who knows, maybe they do this to all the new daughters-in-law, she thought, visualizing a strange ceremony where each new family member would have to prove her worth by surviving mysterious dishes with unexpected side effects. She even imagined Samuel and his brothers around a dinner table, chuckling quietly while watching the new wives break into a cold sweat with each bite. And of course there was the theory that Celine simply thought Emily was too skinny and was secretly trying to fatten her up. Maybe she's adding some kind of secret ingredient to make me gain weight, she thought, visualizing herself swelling like a balloon with every meal, while Celine watched with a satisfied look, thinking, now that's a real daughter-in-law. These ideas, as absurd as they were amusing, made Emily laugh at herself, but also couldn't entirely dispel the uneasiness she felt. After all, the theories were comical, but the sense of discomfort and the queasiness she felt after meals were very real. Celine treated her with such kindness, always with a warm smile and asking if she needed anything, that it was hard to believe her mother-in-law could have any ill intentions. And yet, something about the situation continued to leave her intrigued and a little scared. Why did no one else seem to feel sick after eating at Celine's house? Meanwhile, Emily continued to adapt to her new life. She started working at a local office of the company she used to work for, and gradually she began making friends. On weekends, Samuel's parents' house became even more crowded, with all the siblings and their families gathering for endless lunches. Emily admired how Celine managed to cook for so many people and still keep everything under control. Her mother-in-law seemed to be everywhere at once, in the kitchen preparing food, in the living room playing with the grandchildren, in the garden picking fresh herbs for seasoning. One day, during yet another lunch at her mother-in-law's house, Emily decided she needed to find out what was going on. When Celine brought the dishes to the table, Emily waited for a moment of distraction and swapped her plate with Samuel's. Upon tasting the food, Emily finally understood why Samuel always said his mother was such a great cook. The dish was delicious. But when Samuel tasted the food that was supposed to be Emily's, he made a face. "Mum, what happened to this food today?" "It tastes strange," he said, confused. Emily couldn't hold back any longer. "I switched the dishes, Samuel," she confessed. "I knew there was something wrong with the food your mum was serving me. It always tasted strange." Suddenly, Samuel's siblings started to laugh. Emily and Samuel looked at them, perplexed. "Tell them, Mum," Peter said, laughing. "Tell them why Emily's food tastes strange." Celine turned as red as a tomato and ran to the kitchen, embarrassed. Emily and Samuel exchanged bewildered glances. It was Jonathan who finally explained the situation, still laughing. "Samuel, all of our wives have gone through what Emily is going through now. We only found out recently. The truth is that Mom is in love with our big family. She loves being a grandmother. And she learned from her grandmother that a specific herb increases a woman's fertility. It's an old belief, but she thinks it works. She credits this herb for having had 7 children. She used to mix this herb into our wives' food." Samuel was stunned. He knew, of course, about Celine's love for the family. She always asked when he would have children. But this? This was too much. He went to the kitchen, where he found Celine nervously stirring some pots. "Mum," he said softly. "Is it true? Were you putting this herb in Emily's food?" Celine turned, tears in her eyes. "I just wanted to help," she whispered. "You two got married so quickly, and I was worried that maybe Emily didn't want children. I love our family so much, Samuel. I wanted you to experience the joy of being a father. Samuel hugged his mother. I understand that you love our family, Mum, but the decision to have children needs to be thought out and decided by the couple. We can't force this. Celine nodded, ashamed. You're right. I'm sorry. I promise I won't interfere anymore. Samuel smiled. Besides, that herb is just superstition. It doesn't really work. Celine raised an eyebrow. Of course it works. Look how many children your brothers have. The two laughed together, the tension dissipating. When they returned to the dining room, Emily looked at them anxiously. Samuel explained the situation, and to his surprise, Emily started to laugh. So that's why I was feeling so sick, she exclaimed. Oh, Celine, you didn't need to worry. Samuel and I want to have children. We were just waiting to get settled first. Celine looked relieved. I'm sorry, dear. I shouldn't have interfered. Emily hugged her mother-in-law. It's all right. But next time you want me to try a new recipe, how about letting me know beforehand? Everyone laughed, and the lunch continued in a much lighter mood. In the months that followed, Emily and Samuel dedicated themselves to building their life together. They bought a house not far from Samuel's family, large enough to host visitors and, who knows, future children. Emily was surprised to realize how happy she was with her new life. The noise and chaos that once left her bewildered were now welcome. She loved Sunday lunches at Celine's house, playing with the nephews and nieces, and lively conversations with the sisters-in-law. Celine, in turn, stopped adding secret herbs to Emily's food. Instead, she started teaching her daughter-in-law her favourite recipes. The two developed a close and affectionate relationship, with Celine becoming a loving maternal figure. A year after the fertility herb incident, Emily discovered she was pregnant. The news was received with immense joy by the whole family. Celine, of course, couldn't help but mention that perhaps the herb had worked after all. Emily and Samuel just laughed and exchanged knowing glances. Emily's pregnancy was closely monitored by the entire family. Celine was always nearby, offering advice and preparing special dishes for her daughter-in-law. Emily's sisters-in-law organised a wonderful baby shower, full of fun games and adorable gifts. When the baby was born, a girl they named Sophia, Emily and Samuel's house was filled with visitors. Uncles and cousins took turns to meet the newest member of the family. Celine practically moved into the couple's house during the first few weeks, helping with the baby and ensuring Emily was well fed and rested. Emily, who had previously feared she wouldn't know how to care for a baby, was surprised by how naturally she assumed her role as a mother. She often found herself watching Sophia sleep, marvelling at every little detail of her daughter. Samuel was a devoted and loving father. He loved singing to Sophia, even though he was out of tune, and spent hours playing with her on the living room carpet. Emily fell more and more in love with her husband as she watched him interact with their daughter. The years flew by. Sophia grew up and became a smart and joyful little girl, adored by all her aunts and cousins. Emily and Samuel had 2 more children, much to Celine's delight, who now had a house full of grandchildren to spoil. 5 years had passed since that day when Emily discovered the secret of the fertility herb. She and Samuel now had 3 adorable children. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, Celine's house was once again full of life. Children ran around the yard, shouting and laughing. The adults chatted animatedly on the porch, exchanging stories and jokes. Emily, now fully integrated into the family, was in the midst of the commotion, her face radiant with happiness. She played with the nephews and nieces, laughed at her brothers-in-law's jokes, and exchanged recipes with her sisters-in-law. Samuel watched her with love, amazed at how she had blossomed in this environment of loving chaos. Celine was sitting in her favourite rocking chair, watching the scene with a satisfied smile. Her eyes sparkled with joy as she saw her children and grandchildren running around the house. She might not have used the most conventional methods, but in the end her family was complete and happy. When Emily approached her, Celine took her hand and said softly, "Thank you for making my son so happy, dear. And thank you for giving me more grandchildren to love." Emily smiled, caressing her belly. Thank you for giving me the family I always dreamed of, Celine." The two women embraced, united by their love for the same family. Emily thought about how her life had changed since she met Samuel. From a quiet and lonely childhood, she was now at the centre of a whirlwind of love and joy. She couldn't be happier. As she watched her children playing with their cousins, Emily realised that the true magic was not in any mysterious herb. It was in love, acceptance, and the joy of being part of something greater than herself. That was the true recipe for a happy family. And so, surrounded by laughter, hugs, and the aroma of another delicious Sunday lunch prepared by Celine. Without any secret herbs this time, Emily knew she had found her place in the world. She had found her home. That night, after all the guests had gone and the children were in bed, Emily and Samuel sat on their porch. The sky was starry, and a gentle breeze was blowing, carrying the scent of the garden flowers. "Are you happy?" Samuel asked, holding Emily's hand. Emily smiled, leaning on her husband's shoulder. "More than I ever imagined possible," she replied. "You know, when I was a child, I used to dream of a life full of adventures. I thought that meant travelling the world, visiting exotic places, living through thrilling dangers." Samuel laughed softly. "And now?" "Now I realise that the greatest adventure of all is this," Emily said, gesturing to the house behind them where their children slept. "Building a family, raising our children, being part of this wonderful madness that is our family. That's the true adventure." Samuel kissed the top of Emily's head. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," Emily replied. "Thank you for bringing me on this adventure." The two stayed there, embraced under the stars, grateful for the love they shared and the family they had built together. Emily knew that, no matter what the future held, she would face everything with joy, because now she had what she always wished for, a home full of love, laughter, and life. And so, on that quiet night, Emily fell asleep in Samuel's arms, her heart filled with gratitude and happiness. She knew that tomorrow would be another day full of challenges and joys, another chapter in the great adventure that was her life, and she could hardly wait to see what the future had in store for them. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.